Welcome to ClickFunnels Radio, where we go behind the scenes and uncover the tactics and strategies top entrepreneurs are using to make more sales, dominate their markets, and how you can get those same results. Here's your host, Dave Woodward.
Hey everyone, welcome back to ClickFunnels Radio. This is going to be so much fun. You have the opportunity of talking to a man who has absolutely been crushing it for us. It's one of those guys who Russell found out about him, thought, man, I'd really like to work with him. And all this guy talked about was why you don't want to use me. So I want to introduce you guys to Heath Wilcock. Heath, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm excited that, again, Heath has been doing copywriting for, almost 10 years now. Folks doing this kind of stuff. The great part is I love is he's got the funnest, coolest attitude whenever you're talking to him about anything. It's kind of funny. I was taking a look, even your first degree was in writing, and then your master's is in fiction. And then I'm sitting there going, well, what's this whole comedy thing? Well, he actually teaches he used to do a whole bunch of comedy type of stuff. Now he's in an RV, can't spend a bit of time. Anyways, you're going to love the opportunity of getting to know Heath. He's crushing it. He's, again, does a ton of copywriting for us. And I just want to kind of go through this whole journey as far as when you start looking at copywriting, how do you actually get it done? It's one of the hardest things, but when you find the right people, they're the best. So again, Heath, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. I can't wait to dive into this.
Yeah, I'm excited. Very, very excited to be here.
So when you take a look kind of at where you're at and kind of the next steps, what are the things you're enjoying the most right now?
Let's see. I enjoy the most right now in regards to copywriting or just in general?
Let's go both.
I enjoy reading a lot. And this also ties back into copywriting. So my background is in fiction. It's where my first love is. And I want to establish, that's where I keep having to make sure to go back to that why. My love of fiction and making sure that I have time for myself to write fiction, not just for sales copy, but writing fun stories and fiction stories. So I read a lot. I do a lot of reading, short stories and novels. And then what I love doing in regards to copywriting, I love finding the different, I love poking holes in other competitors' offers and seeing what maybe they're missing. I love saturated markets. So I actually love saturated markets because there's always still opportunity to find something that competitors are missing. This recently happened with like a probiotic, and it was a white label product. And so people always kind of poo-poo a white label because it's like, oh, it's a white label. It's not super unique. But actually what was so cool with this white label is like, well, there's always opportunity because you can always dive in a little bit deeper. So I love the diving in deeper, like looking at each ingredient and then looking at competitors. What are they missing? And then, of course, I love always, no matter what, when it comes to copy, is going back to the audience. Always the audience. Every time I get stuck, this is the biggest takeaway I always say for people starting off copy, is if they're getting stuck on a headline, if they're getting stuck anywhere, the reason why they're stuck is they haven't gone in the audience enough. So if you ever get stuck, just go back to the audience. Just run back to them. Ask them questions, go into different groups and just keep researching just what are they saying? Because that's really what we're doing with the copywriting, is making sure that we're communicating to them what they want.
So I'm going to interrupt you on that. I'm fascinated by that because if you don't mind, tell people, when a lot of people say, oh, I'll just kind of figure it out myself. That's not how you do it. If you don't mind, tell people how do you actually go back to them?
Yeah, going back to the audience. So definitely what I do is I always say, like, copywriting and sales, any sort of the copywriting, there's a breakdown. I always think it's 90% research and 10% copy. Like most of it is research. That's where I spend most of the time, is in research. So a lot of times people get bored of copywriting because they think they can be creative and flowery and fun. And a lot of it, there is opportunity for being creative, but a lot of it is just in the trenches of just with your audience and more than just research. Becoming, I always think of it like the best example is George Plimpton, who the creator of the Paris Review. He was famous for living out the lives of these people that he didn't know to really understand them. So he would go be a professional football player. He's never played football, but he wanted to see what it's like. And I think about that all the time. He, instead of just writing about this individual electrician or this person, actually become it. What does it mean to be that person on a day-to-day basis, to feel the struggles, to have those desires that person has? So I always say, like, I'm always in Reddit. Reddit is a great place because it's just endless forums. Of course, Amazon reviews, looking at all of Amazon reviews and just really reading them. And then a lot of times what we'll do, and I learned this from a great marketer, James Van Elswyk. It was really smart. He'll take all like the reviews from Amazon, and then he'll put it in a, I forgot the link of it, the name of it, but I have it saved, where I think it's called like Monkey Survey. I don't know. No, I think I'm doing it wrong. But he'll post all these reviews in the like a submit form. Press submit, and it almost makes like a word map. It'll make a word map, so you get to see what top words are being used the most. So it's really nice, and that helps you jumpstart a little bit more. So you're like, okay, the biggest issue, the biggest top of brain issue for the people in the greens juice is going to be taste. I see taste is big. So taste is big, followed by this, digestion. Great. So it helps you put a hierarchy of what to talk about, perhaps in your sales page, in your message. So that's really fun. So I do that. I also, one of my favorite things to do actually is getting on the phone with people. You'd be surprised of how many people are willing to get on the phone with you. And I let them know beforehand, like an email, hey, you promise not to sell you, not anything. This is just me getting to know you and getting to know what you think of our product. It's only going to be tops 15-minute call, and people are so willing. And I tell you what, that's where you get the best stories. Recently happened with our bone broth that we did, that we're really excited about, which is a great product that we're really excited to release. I got on the phone with a woman who loved our bone broth because it was a business in the past, and then it fell apart, and we bought it again, and we're bringing it back. And what was so well known for this bone broth is how amazing the flavor was. It was this whole angle of no ingredient or seasoning necessary. You can drink it straight from the bag. It's unbelievable. So I asked, I was like, okay, give me the top 10 people that loved your product and purchased the most, the highest LTV, the people. And so I got on the phone with them, and they were crazy. They loved this bone broth. But that's where I also got this great story from this woman out of Scottsdale in Arizona. She said, I started drinking it, and so I made my husband start drinking it, and pretty soon he was able to start riding his recumbent bike again because the collagen helped up his joints and everything. So it was like, oh, it's amazing. It's by just talking to people, you wouldn't get that detail. I could say, like, it's not as powerful to say, I started walking again without my joints hurting. But the idea, it's not just a bike, it's a recumbent bike that he likes to ride out in the desert. I always think the more detail you go, the more just really you could tell it's honest and it's true, what these people are feeling. And that's powerful. The more truth you could speak to the product and more truth you can just convey, people are going to feel it and want to buy it and be part of it. So there you go. That's my long answer about what I like to do. The best thing I always say is just always go back to the audience, because people get hung up too much on their own heads, of, they'll have anxiety. I still have anxiety, of course. I'm like, is this any good? None of it's good. I hate it at all. There's a saying of like, writers hate writing. They love to have written. It's true. I still hate writing. It's still work. It's still exhausting. I still procrastinate. But when it's done, I love it. I'm a writer. Once it's done, it's great. But a lot of times they're in their heads because you think that you have to be creative, when reality is just there's a lot you can get out of your brain and not feel the burden of writing if you just go back to the audience and ask them what they want.
Oh my gosh, that's such great advice. There's nothing better than actually speaking and talking with your customers, whether you're the person who's going to be doing the writing or if you're the person who's hiring a writer. A copywriter the most important thing is to make sure you're getting the actual words.
Right.
As you're talking about that, it's so easy to come up with oh, I think it's kind of like this. No, there's actual words, and the vocabulary that people use is so critical to your success. And again, as weird as it sounds, you might not actually be that successful just because you're using the wrong vocabulary or the way you're presenting it or the story associated with you. Like, oh, I think I've heard this. It's totally different than getting the actual one. So I love that. Again, love that you're doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's the key to it all. I think people, I always hear from clients all the time too, like, oh, I'm just not creative. Like it has very little to do with that. And but that's how they kind of associate with it. And that's why I have to make sure to like keep reading fiction and stuff. I still have to feed my creative soul in other ways, because while there is little areas of being creative when it comes to perhaps a funnel, I would say like getting creative of like, it's more of like a UX design. I'm like, when they add to cart, it goes over here, and you're just trying to think of how it visually looks, and you have to get a little creative there. But when it comes to the actual message, I think it's the biggest. What was it? Dan Kennedy always talked about that. Be clear, not clever. Be straight. Don't need to be clever. Just being very straightforward. And I've just been in a Dan Kennedy brain for the past few months, obviously with the no BS letter and stuff. And so I keep kind of refueling that, because I'll get carried away, and then I can hear Dan in my head kind of like, knock it off. I can hear him just being like, knock it off. Just say the thing, don't have to try so hard.
I love that. So if people are listening here, they're going to go, wait a second, Dan Kennedy, that's one of the guys that they're hearing a lot from me on. I've loved that. So if you don't mind, kind of expound a little more on, again, his whole story is a very unique story. Yeah, I know you know that, but I think the key here is when you start, how do you use him when you're not him, but you're writing for him? How do you tie that all together?
I get real, I stub my toe and get real grumpy, and then I start writing right away. No, I found myself, a lot of people are maybe new to Dan Kennedy, or also, Dan Kennedy's been around and a lot of people admire him. But a lot of what I love about Dan Kennedy is how he doesn't pull his punches. And he's also said, like, I love his saying, like, if you haven't offended anyone by noon, then you're not doing enough to make money. You're not doing enough in your marketing. I really do like his approach of marketing, of just getting it out there, creating a great offer of what they want. So when I write for like the Dan Kennedy kind of style and going, when it comes to marketing for like a Dan Kennedy offer, like the no BS letter that we did, the Mifke offer, it's definitely go long, be okay with going long. Like Dan is very known for answer every objection. Like have an objection and then answer it. Have an objection, answer it. So go long. Don't be afraid of having a massive headline and a massive long sub headline, but also I love his practical, actionable approach. He is not this flowery of like having to do any sort of complicated things. I love that he always strips everything down, and he has some sort of vulgar off-color joke, and then he just says, this is what you need to do. And whenever I think of it that approach, it gets me in that Dan Kennedy mind. I don't need to be flowery and literary or anything like that. This is what it is. This is how it's going to help you. Take it or leave it. And I really do. I've been thinking more and more about him every time I think of marketing and going about my day, and how things are advertised towards me, how things are set up, even in grocery stores. I'll think about in front of aisles. That's one of my favorite things to do, is going grocery store and looking at different products and what they're doing to appeal. I'll look at all the lines of, I don't know. I used to do this all the time back in the day. I would go really late at night at grocery stores where like hardly anyone's around. They're about to close in 30 minutes. And I would wander around the aisles, and I would just like look at different products, and I'd be like, oh, the ice cream there's a boom in ice cream. And I'd look at all the new keto ice creams, and I'd see how they're approaching, how each ice cream is approaching, how the different keto market is approaching these different ice creams. What's the different angle and attack? So, and I keep having, and also because I've been doing the whole no BS, and Mifke with Russell and Dan. So I keep having Dan in my head because I've been having to go through backlog of all these videos. And so when I think of Dan, when I write for that kind of approach, it's definitely no frills. Once I'm done, I go through and I go, okay, what can be cut? I want to get down to like, it is just straightforward. Don't need to try so hard, because the excitement is in the offer itself of how it's going to help them. Yeah. And it doesn't, and less exclamation points. Russell has a lot more exclamation points than Dan. So it's a little bit more straightforward.
That's so funny. I'm looking at, again, you go to the nobsletter.com, and obviously if you guys want to find out more about that, it's been fascinating to see all the crazy stuff that's been going on there. Obviously magnetic marketing as well. I think the part to me that's so fascinating though, is I take a look at all that you've done, and where you literally, it's so fascinating to me as just an amazing copywriter, where it's as if you become him. It's kind of like you were referring to earlier, as far as the guy going, I don't know how to play football. So he goes in and becomes a football player. And I think as a copywriter, that's probably one of the greatest skills, if you can actually become the client and to really go through it. So for those people who are listening, are going, well, I'm not going to become a copywriter. How do I find a copywriter? What would you recommend? If someone, first of all, if you want to become a copywriter, the very first thing they do is they definitely need to be following you. And so I would say the easy thing is you want to tell them where to go?
Oh yeah, just go to my site, just heathwilcock.com.
So the fun part is I'm going to, sorry to cut you off there. If you actually go there, I love it says, I'm Heath Wilcock, and I sometimes have a mustache my wife hates. And I'm like, what? And I think it's just amazing to just kind of go through it's a real quick page, but it's fun as you actually go through it, because you talk about all the things about you and how to actually to get to work with you and do those kind of things. And I think so often when you look at finding a good copywriter, this is an amazing skill set. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I lucked out. I kind of fell into it. Like what you said, becoming the person, because I did improvising for many years and taught it and performed it every weekend for years. And you become you don't just talk about like you become that person on stage. You have to become different characters all the time. And in my early days of copywriting, I would come to work. It was this e-commerce company way out in Scottsdale, and I would come to work and there'd be new products on my desk. But they liked me because I had the improvising background, because I would have to shift my voice so many times. I remember like the first week I had to be really aggressive for this bodybuilding supplement line. So I had to become this bodybuilder. What language did they use in the gym? You have to use the language that they understand, because it becomes almost like a code. It's not, you can kind of like sniff out the fakers, in other words. So it becomes this code. And then like the following week after that, I had to write baby products. So I had to like quickly shift from like aggressive to something super gentle. So you have to do it really fast. So like, okay, what is a mother? How are these moms speaking? What are the languages that, they use? And then also what are their pains and desires, of course. So it's definitely that. So, I would say with copywriting, again, for anyone that's looking to become a copywriter, start writing. The biggest thing is just to start writing, even if no one reads it. Like I have that email list there. When I made that, I had no one on my list, and I was still sending out emails, I think, to one or two people. But I made sure to just do it, just because by doing it every day, this is something also I had to learn in, of course, at grad school and so on. In order to become a writer, you have to write. It's not like you can say it all you want, but if you're not writing, then even if you write garbage, it's okay. It's okay to write garbage, because you're still writing. It's the act itself. And you refine it as you go on. So by being a copywriter, you write and build up a portfolio, take on small gigs. I was on Upwork for a long time, and I took on other small things. I would moonlight at night, and I had this job but I was still moonlight and I just wanted to keep building up a portfolio. I did like product descriptions for like yarmulkes. I mean, I would take anything I could. I was doing anything and everything just to build up something so I can have that experience. And I did cold emails for cool sculpting. So like for like med spas and stuff, for people that wanting to do that cool sculpting that like freezes off fat. I remember one time they weren't converting where we wanted to. We were getting some leads, but we wanted to up it. And I'm like, oh, I need to know more. So I got on the phone with a cool sculpting place and acted like I was the customer that was overweight and wanted to lose some pounds. And so it's funny because on the whole thing, they start asking you questions and I'm going through it and I'm making notes. Okay. So I can understand what is it they're looking for? What is it that they can really help me with? And I remember I told them my weight and they go, oh, no, you're too overweight. And they hung up. I was too overweight for the cool sculpting. They couldn't help freeze off my fat. And they're like, oh, you're too overweight. So I then knew it was a certain range so I can be more exact of what they're looking, how much weight to expect to actually like freeze off. So it's another example. A lot of times I would get so frustrated. I'm like, it's not working. So then I would get on the phone. I'm like, I got to call someone and really figure this out. And then if you're looking for a copywriter, I mean, there's plenty of groups. One of the group I'm part of is Copy Accelerator group. And it's always great to get on, to have mentors. So everything that I write, it always gets reviewed by other high level copywriters because it just happens for everyone. Even the greatest novelists have to have an editor. You have to have someone to look over your stuff because while I may have these degrees and it feels fancy and so on, I'm not great at like grammar. So for instance, like we have another copywriter on the team who's great, Dean, and he's wonderful. And he's so good at picking out my grammar and like I'll use different tenses all the time. I'm just flying through. So it's great to have him he has my back to be like, oh, you want to switch this around? I'm like, oh, perfect. Thank you. It makes it much better. And then it's great to have other high level copywriters be like, actually, for this offer, if you shift this around or make sure to mention this, because I'll forget sometimes. I'm like, oh, of course. So that's always really, really important. That's how I was able to get much better and way faster, was to make sure that everything's getting reviewed by other awesome copywriters. So the Copy Accelerator group, there's the Cult of Copy group, of course. There's lots of groups on Facebook. They can learn more of how to become a copywriter or also looking for an excellent copywriter. There's a lot out there, but the big one is having a copywriter. You'd never want order takers. You want a copywriter that, I always say, when someone's like, I'm looking for a copywriter, clients oftentimes don't know what they want. They hear that they need a copywriter to help with sales. So, I need a copywriter because they need to do this. And so it's always good to have a copywriter that I go, okay, let's take a look at this first, and that's where, like, for instance, when Russell years ago, not years ago, it was just just last year, in the beginning, around this time, when he was asking me, and I talked him out of hiring me because it just wasn't necessary for what he wanted. So that's a big thing too, is you get copywriters that are just order takers because they're like, oh, money, great. And they'll just write, send it on, and then they leave. And then they're on to the next one. Whereas you definitely want a copywriter that goes, okay, and then ask more questions. I'm always asking more and more questions. Okay, what is it you're looking for? What's the funnel? What are the pages? You want an advertorial? Do you really want an advertorial? Let's take a look. And then, so then you get, because then the client feels like, oh, I'm being taken care of. This person understands where they're coming from, or understands my actual needs. So they're not just going to just write something. And because I would hate for me to write something, send it on, and it doesn't work, or they're not going to use it. It's a waste of everyone's time and money. I would rather understand exactly what they're looking for. So that's a big thing too with the copywriter. You want a copywriter that is willing to ask a lot of questions and give feedback, and then be willing not to maybe take the job because it's not what they actually are looking for. Oh, you actually need an email marketer, or it would be better if you did a quiz or something like that. Or maybe you don't need a copywriter at all. You just need to change up the design a little bit and raise up the font because you're dealing with older people and the font's too small. And I've had that a lot of times where they'll say, like, I'm just like, just raise the font. It's at 14. You're dealing with people that are 60 plus. Get it up to 18, 20, you know? And they'll laugh at that, but it's really true. That's why there's a, you know, anyway. So,
I think the fun part for me, Heath, is you have so much experience, and you can just literally, the great thing about talking with you is you can literally talk for days because you have so much experience and so much of the opportunity to, again. So if people wanted to find out more about you, obviously heathwilcock.com. Anything else you want to send people to?
No, I would say Facebook and all that, but I've downgraded to focus more. I don't even have a smartphone. I have this little light. I have a little light phone too. So I'm nowhere on social media. I'm not on LinkedIn. I'm not on Instagram. I'm nowhere. I am in an RV in the middle of nowhere. And so you can only find me on that site, and I'll email periodically.
I love it. Heath, thank you so much, bud.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, I hope you absolutely loved all that we just went through. I think the cool thing for me is I take a look and think of all the things that 100% of the people who have had success, they all had this one thing in common, and that is they all actually built a funnel. So we decided we'd actually release how people can actually do this. So you can go to yourfirstfunnel.com, and it basically shows everyone how to create your first funnel. If you take a look at all the cool free things that are included in this huge list, is a great thing when you start taking a look at what are the things you want to do when you're building your own business. But definitely you want to go to yourfirstfunnel.com. Here you'll see Russell, where he literally goes through all of the details in this amazing video there. In addition to that, he goes through and we actually give this massive overview of all the free stuff. So realize if this is your first time to try ClickFunnels, you actually get 30 days free. In the past, it's always been 14 days. You get 30 days right now. Plus, you get 14 days of live coaching, plus Russell's 30-day book. I love this book. This is one of my favorites because it actually goes through where you can see 30 other people in different industries, what they would do if they had to start from scratch. And it's like 520 pages, just crazy. And they actually send you the book. Plus, the Funnel Hacker Cookbook, which is just an awesome thing. I remember we're actually going through all that with Russell in our little kitchen here in the office. But the cool part is he actually goes through every single tiny little thing that you could do. And it's like a cookbook where you just add it into your page that you're building, in your funnel, all that stuff. Plus, 102 insane, done-for-you, ready-to-go funnels. So you can just hit the ground running today. And that's where, again, these are existing funnels. You can just plug them in. Plus, the free headline generator software, which is just awesome because it actually helps you create the headlines, which is so hard for most of us. In addition to that, you get a free list building secrets training, which goes through all the things as far as how do you build your list. So yeah, you got the headline, but now you also have to have the list of where you're going to go. We're trying to get everyone to get the first 1,000 people within the first 30 days. Plus, Tony Robbins' private collection. It's 7 of Tony's trainings. Obviously, I just adore Tony, and the stuff that he's provided for all businesses is just amazing. So you want to see that. Plus, you also get Dan Kennedy's herd building training seminar, which is one of my favorites. I absolutely love working with Dan and seeing the stuff that he's done. That was one of my favorite ones. Plus, you also get ClickFunnels Funnel Hacker t-shirt. All this stuff is free. And I just want to make sure that you understand that we want you to go to yourfirstfunnel.com, and that way you can actually see it and go through it, see what's there, and we just want to make sure you guys are having success. So we'll talk to you soon.